quite some time. Okay, let me tap that. Let me start off by saying good morning. I know a lot of you have known me for, well, this is my 19th year in the industry. And I left my NHD last year and I went to Snap NHD because Snap has several features on their report that no other natural hazard disclosure company has. So I always like to start off by saying this report was created by California Association of Realtors in 1994. That's 30 years ago. And this report has always had flood, fire, earthquake, liquefaction, and landslide on the signature statutory form. And for those of you who have heard me speak many times, I've always said it is very, very important to have 3 layers of maps: the state map, the county map, and the local map. And that's because the local map of Hawthorne, Palos Verdes, Santa Monica, Hollywood, Beverly Hills, all of the cities update their maps much more frequently than the county of LA or the state of California. And that's why those maps supersede state and county every time. So the 3 layers of maps are crucial to ensure that you have a complete and accurate report. Snap NHD has been in business for 7 years. We have been in partnership since then with CAR. It's not an accident that we are on your zip forms. We are approved and endorsed by California Association of Realtors. That's a big deal. And to be approved and endorsed by them is because we have a complete, accurate report that protects everybody in the transaction. We have $10 million of E&O that protects buyer, seller, listing agent, buyer's agent, TC if you use one, and escrow. We are very proud that we were the first company to get permission from CAR to add the FHDS form, Fire Hardening Defensible Space Advisory form, to our report 2.5 years ago when Assembly Bill 38 came out. And the Assembly Bill came out because of all of the wildfires that are happening in our beautiful state. And how can we better protect the homes and the neighborhoods that are in these existing high fire severity zones? When CAL FIRE finished mapping out or remapping the entire state of California last year, 30% of the homes now are in high fire severity zones. And I'm sure many of you have heard of the issues that are happening right now to get insurance on properties that have loans through the banks. So that's why it's more important now than ever to get your NHD report when you get your listing. You need to know if you're in a fire zone or a flood zone so that you can immediately start acting on getting insurance. I know in the past, people used to spend, the last 2 or 3 weeks before escrow closed to get all their insurance in place. Those days are gone. There are many carriers that pulled out of the state of California, so we have fewer insurance companies to protect us. And as a result, the ones that are in service, signing up new policies with new homeowners, those policies are being written and sold by the middle of the month. So for example, if Farmers Insurance is allowed to sell, for example, 10,000 policies in March, they're selling all those policies by the middle of the month, not by the end of the month. So if you have someone in escrow, you might have to wait till April to close instead of closing the transaction in March because you can't get insurance until then. So it's not to scare you, it's to better inform you of what are the steps you need to take. So let's start off with my PowerPoint. I'm going to give that to you right now. Okay, can everybody see my PowerPoint?
Looks good, Mindy. You're
Yep.
good.
Okay, so we're going to be discussing fire hardening and defensible space so that when the property is in a high fire severity zone, you are able to navigate what needs to be done on the property in order to make it safe if, God forbid, there's a fire. So AB 38 was passed October 2019. 5 years ago almost. And then it was enacted in July of 2021. So that's almost 3 years ago that this has been in place. And the purpose of AB 38 is to disclose to buyers, is this property, the parcel, in a high fire severity zone? It's really that simple. So it's nothing new. This is just a heightened awareness to make people pay attention now more than ever. You disclose to the buyers, if this isn't a high fire zone, then they need to bring the property up to AB 38 compliance. And the fire hardening requirements on the home that we'll go over are what is basically going to help save the house if, God forbid, there was a fire next door or even in that home. It's to make sure that the defensible space requirements are also met. So let's go over it. So what is fire hardening? The roof, the eaves, the siding, the windows, the mulch, the openings, the deck. These are 7 different items that have all been discussed over the last several years. Oops, sorry, hit the wrong button. Go back. I don't know why it just got stuck. Okay, hold on, let me stop. Okay, let me start it again. I'm sorry, I don't know why it got stuck. Let's try that again. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. So what's really important is to pay attention to what is currently affecting the home. So for example, is the roof made out of wood shingles versus fire resistant materials? Are the eaves open and exposed, or they have been closed and boxed in? Is the siding on the house made out of wood, or is it fire resistant material? Have they already changed out the windows from single pane to dual pane windows that are tempered? And did they add screens if there were no screens in the windows? Have they replaced the bark and the wood chips with rocks and pebbles? Because rocks and pebbles do not burn. They're not combustible. Are there openings in the home that are non-protected vents? Because if there are, if you had metal screens and vents that were closed, it helps prevent things from flowing through the house. And is the deck that's attached to the house standard spacing, combustible material? Lots of people built wood decks and they're attached to the home. So you don't want to have something attached to the house that could go up in flames. So if you have increased joint space and you have the bitumen tape that's not combustible tape, all of these fire resistant materials give your home a better chance of surviving. And this was implemented for homes that are built before 2010 because the fire codes were stricter after 2010. Okay, why is it doing this? Hold on. I had to slide over everybody's face to see the rest of the screen, and now it's not moving. I don't know why that happened. I'm sorry. And I'm not technically savvy, so why is it doing that? Let's try this again. Oh my.
Mindy, try using the arrows on your keyboard.
That's what I'm using. For some reason, when I slid our faces over from the side so I could see my whole screen, it didn't let me move forward. I don't know why. And I don't know what to do, so I have to go back and, man. All right, I'm not going to touch that again. Let me try it again. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. Now all my faces are at the top of the screen. Hopefully that won't be a problem. There we go. Okay. So now we have zone 0, zone 1, and zone 2. And these are the 3 different zones that determine what needs to be done on the property to keep it safe. So defensible space is basically creating a barrier around the structure, around the house, to prevent the fuel or the fire from basically infiltrating it. So when you're in the zone 0, that's what's closest to the home, 0 to 5 feet. So that what's really needs to be addressed. Are there decks, play sets, wood piles, patio furniture? Are there combustible trees that are within 5 feet of the home? And if they are, they might need to be removed or cut back. This is what is determined during the defensible space inspection by either CAL FIRE, if you're in a state responsibility area, SRA, or the local fire department comes to the home if you're in the local high fire zone. So they determine what needs to be done to protect the structure, depending on zone 0, 1, and 2, what vegetation could be affecting the property. So this is the purpose of the Defensible Space Act going into play. The decision tree, FHDS, and the CAR forms are filled out by the seller. The listing agent can guide them, just like on the TDS, but they're not allowed to fill out the form. And if the property has not been updated, if the homeowner has done nothing to make this home more protected, it's fine. You don't have to do anything to the house to make it safe in order to sell it. And the buyer doesn't have to do anything either to buy it. They will have 1 year for the buyer and seller to go into an agreement on the FHDS form, where the buyer will have 1 entire year from the day escrow closes to bring this property up to compliance so that it's AB 38 compliant. So people were freaking out when this came out. Oh my God, is it going to hold up escrow? No, because can you imagine trying to get the defensible space inspection done prior to the close of escrow? There's not enough manpower for CAL FIRE or for the local fire departments throughout our beautiful state. So this is why when CAL FIRE finished adopting and approving the state maps and gave them to all of the counties and 483 cities, they then adopted the maps from CAL FIRE and add them to the maps that they currently have, so that we have state, county, and local maps that are accurate and approved and ready to be used on each transaction. So if you're in a very high fire severity zone on the local area LRA, that consists of incorporated cities. The wildland fire area is a state responsibility, and that's why it's called the SRA, and that consists of unincorporated designated cities. It's usually more rural. And that's why CAL FIRE, the counties, and the cities all need to work together. This is the FHDS Section 1, where the law applies. You have to have home hardening in this home when it is in a high fire severity zone. You need to have the defensible space inspection done so that the homeowner is going to know when the property is in a high or very high fire severity zone, what they need to do to keep the property safe. So we've provided you with the CAL FIRE website, which gives a lot of valuable information on how to protect the house. Fire hardening, 1 to 4 units. The TDS is always required. And if you're in this high fire or very high fire severity zone and the home is built before 2010, the defensible space inspection is required. This section was revised several times. When it first came out almost 3 years ago, it was 1 box that everybody had to check. Did you or did you not do this on the home? Now, they've added the yes and the no box, because they need to make it more accurate so that people understand. Is the seller aware or understand the vulnerabilities of their home that they're selling and want to make sure, have they done any of these things to the house to make it safer? So these 6 items under fire hardening vulnerabilities are what we just went over. Are there eaves, sofflets, roof ventilation that have openings in the vents? And are they flammable? Have the roof coverings been treated, or are they made out of wood, shingles or shakes? Is the combustible landscaping or any other material within the first 5 feet of the home in zone 0? Because we don't want anything attached like a deck that could go up in smoke. Are the windows single pane, or have they been changed out to non-tempered glass windows? Are there any loose or missing bird flashings on the roof? And did they change out the rain gutters with non-combustible metal versus combustible materials? If they've not done anything, it's fine. If they did, it's fine. Just accurately check yes or no for the seller, not the agent. This is what's caused a lot of questions. The local compliance requirements. So is there a local ordinance maintaining the defensible space inspection and requirement? Have they ever had a defensible space inspection done? And is this parcel already in compliance? So I don't know if a variety of you joined us for the Palos Verdes breakfast yesterday, where all 4 mayors on the Hill were sharing information and working together. We at SNAP are the only natural hazard disclosure company that includes in our NHD report the local vegetation ordinance section. And that's what you need to help fill out the FHDS form. We are saving you, agents, anywhere between 3 and 6 weeks of you trying to gather the information from the city to have it added to the FHDS form. Larry, our compliance director, spent over 2 months, 3 months, calling 483 cities in our state to gather all of the defensible space local ordinance sections so that it is in our report under additional requirements. And under AB 38 FHDS, on that page that we have, which I'll show you, we spell out, do you need the inspection done before escrow closes? Have you already had an inspection done? And what the actual vegetation section number is that just gets entered into the form. If the home has been in a high fire severity zone for more than a year, maybe up to 30 years, places like PV, Malibu, Hollywood Hills, they've been dealing with this for a long time. And they currently are already going to the homes, evaluating the structure, determining if it's in a high fire severity zone and what the defensible space requirements would be. So the first thing you want to do is, when you get your signed listing, is order the NHD report. You don't need any money to order it from SNAP. You can call us, go online, email us, get the report for free, and you only pay for the report when it closes escrow. So you get to use it and make sure everything is safe. And if for any reason they pull out of the transaction or it doesn't go through, you don't pay for anything. And very often, the home that is in this high fire zone has had a defensible space inspection. CAL FIRE or the local fire department has already come to the property, explained what needed to be done, and then given guidelines. So it's really important to talk to the seller to determine if these things have already been done. Maybe they've had a defensible space inspection in the last 6 months. Maybe they've already known what they needed to do on their property to make it safe. So this is the section under 3C where you determine, is it going to be the buyer or the seller who is going to be doing this defensible space inspection with CAL FIRE or local fire department? And 99% of the time, it's the buyer's responsibility because the seller just wants to sell the property and get out. So that means it's going to be either 3C 2 or 3, depending on, is there a local vegetation ordinance section? And if there is, it's in our report, clearly defined. And that's it. You just determine which one is it, 2 or 3 for the buyer. Like I said, the seller rarely wants to be responsible once they sell the house. And that's why the buyer's going to have a whole year from the day escrow closes to make sure that the local ordinance is in effect. We provide you with the defensible space inspection link in our report, so it's super easy. If it's going to be under the responsibility of the section for the seller, then it's just completed when the inspection is done. So if they already had it done 6 months ago, you can use that report. Otherwise, you sign section 4, which I'm going to show you in a minute, under the FHDS form where the buyer and seller go into the agreement. If the property is a condo, then it is going to be the responsibility of the HOA to take care of all the common ground. If it is a vacant land, you still need to have an NHD report, but there's no structure, there's no home, so you don't need the FHDS form because there's nothing to fill out. And then per car, the FHDS form is not required if the parcel is in the local high fire zone, because it is a state mandatory law, not a local law. So this is the section that changed on your statutory signature page. Are you in a fire, flood, earthquake zone? So remember me saying why it's so important to have local maps? Well, I don't know if everybody noticed, but starting January of 2024, CAR revised the form, and now it says very high fire severity zone in a local responsibility area. That was never there before. It's always had, are you in high or very high fire severity zone on the state level, in the state responsibility area, and the wildland area. But now adding local responsibility area is huge, because this means that companies, because this is still a non-regulated industry, unlike title, escrow, home warranty, the NHD industry being unregulated means that people can write the report and not use local maps. No one's regulating it. So now more than ever, you want to make sure you're using a company that's got the local map for all 3 layers. And that's why now it's on the statutory form. This is the form in our report under AB 38, FHDS. At the very top, we give you the link so that you can ask for the defensible space inspection to be done. We give you a list of all the requirements for each zone, zone 0, 1, and 2. That's in the second link. Notice it then says the property is in the jurisdiction of the following CAL FIRE unit. We give you the county, we give you the property address, the APN number. Then notice that it says local vegetation management ordinance section. So that section for the county is what goes into the FHDS form. And that's what saves you 3 to 6 weeks of you, the agent, trying to gather it from each city that you're selling the property in. And then, is this defensible space inspection required at the close of escrow? No. There are only 2 counties in the whole city, the whole state, that require that. And that is in Northern California. No area in Southern California requires the defensible space inspection to be done before escrow closes. So we make sure we put all of this in writing so it's clear, accurate. We let you know in a variety of places. The property is in a high, very high fire severity zone. So for people who don't read and they want a snapshot view, Snap NHD provides that. So for example, this is a snapshot. They want to just glance. What do you need to know about the NHD report? That this report is letting you know that you are in 2 additional disclosure hazardous zones. The property is not in a flood zone because you need flood insurance as well when you're getting a loan from the bank, not just fire. And the property is in a fire zone, which may require the CAR form FHDS so that you're compliant with AB 38. So as you can tell, we provide you with all of these images to just glance over the snapshot page. Although people need to read more now than ever. So if the report is checked, yes, you're in a high fire severity zone and you need the defensible space inspection done, you need the FHDS form filled out by the seller. This is provided in every report, so it's bold. FHDS notice, you're in a high fire or very high fire severity zone. Zone 0, 1, and 2 could be affected. Here's the requested defensible space inspection link. You can get more information about what to do for defensible space so that everything is easy to see, easy to read, and very accurate. The wildfire disclosure report that is now on the RPA is a satellite imagery of the actual property. It's giving a detailed analytical view of all the data that could basically let you know what is vulnerable on the property. What are the zones that are being affected? Do you need to have an inspection? Update your insurance broker with the things that are going on the property that have or have not been done. This new wildfire report is like a roadmap to compliance. It's for the seller and the buyer so that they know what needs to be done on the property before the defensible space inspection is done. How much could it cost? What are the insurance vulnerabilities? What is the insurance company looking at to protect this home? So when you get the listing and you're in a high fire severity zone, you might want to consider ordering the wildfire disclosure report for an additional $140 because it tells you all of the things that need to be done on the property as if it had the actual inspection done. So no one goes to the home, it's all done by the satellite, but notice that they give wildfire hazard ratings. Are you in a very high zone, depending on radiant heat? There's all kinds of detailed information that goes into this wildfire hazard rating that's very, very similar to what the insurance companies look at when they're evaluating, will they or will they not protect this home? We also have this sample on our report on our website, snapnhd.com. And this gives you additional information on what to do to protect the home. So structure standards under zones 0, 1, and 2. Has the property already had anything done to it that it might be incompliant in certain zones, but not all of them? The circles are where all the trees are that could affect the actual structure. Do they need to be cut back? Do they need to be removed? How flammable are they? So these are the kinds of things that are zeroed in on this actual report, which are really good. The vulnerability analysis is what they call it. They give it a rating, just like the insurance companies give the homes a rating for the structure and the vulnerability. So the threat for convection heat, radiant heat, embers that are flying, fires going from structure to structure, all of these are looked into and detail oriented to determine the ratings and what do they need to do to be in compliant with AB 38. And then they give estimates. And the estimates are a pretty big range, 4,000 to 15,000, depending on what needs to be done. And they actually zero in on 7 trees might need to be removed, 16 trees trimmed in zone 1, 22 trees trimmed in zone 2. What are the vulnerability mitigation services? What are the wildfire protection plans? All the different things that go into the components of keeping the home safe. So this is why CAR decided to partner with Forest Fire to create this new report to give people an idea of what needs to be done on the house so people aren't scared to be buying homes in fire zones. And that way they can actually feel comfortable and safe that they're moving into a transaction where they might live for 10, 15, 30 years, right? And no one knows the future, but we know what we need to do now to protect our beautiful state and keep our homes that are very expensive safe and protected as well. So I know it's a lot of information, but I'll be happy to send each of you, if you'd like, the link to the wildfire sample report that I have, as well as some wildfire flyers. So does anybody have any questions? Has anybody had any experiences they want to share going through a transaction in this high fire severity zone? Don't all raise your hand at once. Was I that thorough? You're good? No questions? Are you asleep? Well, I'm always happy to be of service. And if anybody would like my contact information, it's mindy@snapnhd.com. My phone number is 310-387-4946. And I am proud to be involved with PVPAR for my 19th year. And I'm always available to be of service. So thank you all for joining me today. I appreciate it. And if you've got any questions, let me know. And if you would like anything, just reach out to me and I'll be happy to send it to you. Thanks, Rick.
All right. Thank you, Mindy. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. See you soon.